Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you like this video. With that, let's get into it. You and Izuku don't fight much. In fact, you never really do. You're both so compromising that disagreements rarely happen. He was usually calm, often willing to find a compromise, even if it meant he wouldn't be doing the thing he originally wanted to. And you both trusted each other to make the right choices. The bond between you both was unbreakable, and Izuku had grown so much as a person and matured, and the self-sacrificing tendency that you used to fight over has decreased as of recently, especially after getting married and having a kid with you. However, despite all of that, when your kid was involved, that complacency slipped away, even when it came to one another. I'm done talking about this, you said. Your tone was sharp as a knife as you tapped your foot on the floor. You were angry, and that was a rare sight to see, but you knew what you were talking about. The two of you could not see eye to eye on this, and that bothered you to no end. Honey, why won't you just listen to me? He begged, but the irritation and tiredness in his tone gave his sentence more sharpness than he had originally intended. Our son doesn't need a tutor. It's just a teacher. That's what he thought. But you know better. You were the one with your son all day after all. You began to pick up the leftover toys from the floor, as to expel pent-up energy and not for the act of cleaning itself. Shaking your head, you scoffed. You clearly don't know what you're talking about. Excuse me? Midoriya snapped. His eyes followed you as you discarded the toys and crossed your arms beside the couch. He was ticked by your behavior. I think I know my own son, YN. Izuku cared so much for you and your child, and you knew that. But that underlying message your brain processed within his words hissed you off endlessly. Did he think you didn't? Did he doubt you? How could he even say that when you were the one taking care of his kid as he went off to do his hero work? You glared at him, your eyebrows furrowed in anger. And you think I don't? You retorted, your anger getting the best of you. But it was justified, wasn't it? You were right. You knew what you were talking about. You weren't going to neglect your son just because you couldn't pay enough attention to him. He sighed, exhausted from the ordeal. I just don't think you're giving him enough credit. Izuku defended. He knew his son, and he believed in him. A sharp laugh left her lips before they moved to form a frown. He's failing 4th grade, Izuku. We can move him to a different classroom every time he gets a bad grade. At some point, we have to take responsibility. He needs the extra help. You yelled, but amidst all of your anger, you didn't notice how loud you were being, or how the tension was steadily rising in the living room. You just don't understand. The hero muttered, running a hand through his hair. What he said shouldn't have set you off, but it did. Everything suddenly flooded your head. All the stress you had to deal with alone bubbled up in your throat and exploded in the wrongest way it could have. No, you don't. You don't understand anything, Izuku. Yes, I do. How could you say that when you're barely in his damn life anyway? It went silent shortly after that. The outburst felt good, but the aftermath made your heart squeeze with guilt. Izuku's frown softened into shock before melting into something deeper than pain. It felt like your heart was shattering as you watched him process your words. At the same time, your brain was processing them too. Their words had finally processed through your head. And once you did, you immediately tried to take them back. Izuku, I didn't mean that. Yes, you did. You thickly swallowed and averted your eyes to the floor. He was right. You did. You'd been wanting to say it for so long. But this wasn't the way you'd planned to deliver those thoughts. And definitely not the way you wanted to say it. Didn't want to guilt him. You'd known what you were getting into from the beginning. Izuku was the #1 hero. He was busy. His life was always on the line. And yet, you both always believed that you could manage. But it was easier said than done. Their gaze moved back to your husband once he gathered his duffel bag and slid on his shoes. Baby, you sighed, your voice much softer than before. Now gentle and full of concern, and it was almost insane how easily the anger had left you. Where are you going? Your heart melted at his next words. I'll stay over at the agency to give you some space. We'll talk more after we both cool down, alright? He sadly smiled, despite the hurt silver lining in his eyes. Midoriya softly held your chin and kissed your forehead, something he had always done when your disagreements didn't end on a good note, as if to reassure you that even though he was upset, he still loved you all the same. And that just made you feel worse. You hated that, because no matter what, it would tear at your heart. Because Izuku, at the end of the day, was the love of your life. And to think you were the one who made him feel that way, it hurt more than anything else ever could. You wished you could take it back. Izuku, don't worry about our son. I'll take him to school tomorrow, he said softly, and paused to look you in your eyes. I love you, always. He gave you a soft, faint smile. I love you too. He quietly resigned and watched him disappear behind the front door, leaving you to let your head fall into your hands.
Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as I did making it. Anyway, goodbye.